All right. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, most beneficent, most merciful. We're here with another show. Sorry that I missed you guys on Sunday, our usually scheduled time, but unfortunately, couldn't make it that day. So we're back today, inshallah. And we got a good topic for you. If you've been following what's been happening here in the United States, I don't know what in some of the other countries, if you guys are getting a wind of this, if you're seeing what's going on, but here in the United States, the racism is becoming, at least in the political arena, with certain politicians, is becoming very, very blatant, more so blatant. Let's just say that more so blatant, and it's playing out in the public arena. And in particular, if you know what I'm talking about, as the title of the show clearly states, America tells Ilhan Omar, go back to where you came from. Not only her, but a few other people who I will show you. These four women here have also been told this. All said to be what we call here in the United States women of color, non-white persons. Wa alaikum salam to those who have joined the room. We have Rashida Tlaib, supposed to be, she was born in America, but of Palestinian descent. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, born in America, but of Puerto Rican Latino descent. Sister Ilhan Omar, not born in America, but a naturalized citizen from the nation of Somalia. And Ayanna Presley, born in America of African American descent. And they are known as the Squad. They are newly elected members of the United States government, the Congress in particular. And as they should be, they have been challenging some of the policies that America has, had in implementation, and rightfully so. Right? It's time that we have some people who will get in and start to question and challenge and perhaps change America's imperialistic ways and America's practice of a type of white supremacy, whether it be nationally or on the global scale. And as I've told you in previous shows, there are many people who don't like this. Right? There are many people who don't like this. They're used to the old America, where Congress would have been filled with a bunch of white men and not a person of color, not a woman at all. So they're upset that that the country that they once dominated in, they are no longer dominating. People of color are now becoming members of the government. Women are becoming members of the government. Women of color are becoming members of the government. And of course, we as people of color, we think differently in many cases than those of the dominant society. We have a different outlook on this world than they do. So some of these congresspersons have a different outlook on the United States relationship with Israel. Because some of them are Muslim. So they have a different outlook on America's relationship with Israel, and that relationship will be challenged, and rightfully so, I say, as a black American and as a Muslim American. Some are challenging America's policies when it comes to people of color, immigrants, Latinos, black people, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. But there is an element in this society, as has always been in society, that tries to practice its governance through the lens of white supremacy. And that now is being challenged, and there are many who don't like it. They don't like the challenge. They don't like to be told that they are the evil that they do, the racism that they practice. They don't want to hear that. So instead of addressing the evil that they do, they say, go back to where you came from. And, it's interesting because, like I said, out of the 4 of them, 3 of them are already from this country. They're not from another country. So you can't tell them to go back to anywhere, with the exception of Sister Ilhan Omar. Right? But see, that goes to show you the racism. The fact that they would look at these women of color, Latino, Black American, Middle Eastern descent, and tell them and include them in that, and not giving them you wouldn't tell a white person that, right? If a white person disagreed, would you tell them go back to where you came from? Right? No, right? Because it's already understood and accepted that, oh, if you're white, you must be from America. But for us people of color, no, we don't get that benefit of the doubt, right? We don't get that benefit of the doubt. We can be looked upon as, well, maybe you're not from this country, and that, of course, is due to white arrogance, right? That's due to white arrogance. And as I said, they've mentioned all of the women that you saw on the screen, right? They've mentioned all of them, but lately, as of recent, at least in the last day or so, the Sister Ilhan Omar is really getting most of the brunt of the attack, right? I just saw some stuff today on Twitter where they were attacking her. She's the big one that they're attacking because Trump gave a rally yesterday, I believe it was, and the people were chanting. Looks like a 99.9% white audience chanting, "Send her back, send her back," referring to the Sister Ilhan Omar. I've seen that now people are tweeting about her, people that I've refuted, like Steven Crowder and others, tweeting about her, tweeting lies about her at that, tweeting lies about her, that supposedly she, has said something about, all Jews, and that she supposedly supports Al-Qaeda and ICE, lies, man, lies to try to disparage her, lies to discredit her, right? All in the sense that they can't handle being told the truth about themselves, right? I've said this before in previous shows, that they don't like to hear the truth about themselves. They can't handle it. They can't take it. They don't want to face the evil that they do. Instead of facing it and saying, you know what, let's make a change for the better, they'd rather tell you to shut up. They'd rather tell you to leave. They'd rather tell you to go back to where you came from, instead of saying, you know what, you're right. We need to do better. We need to stop the racism. We need to stop putting kids in cages, right? We need to stop mistreating these people. We need to stop discrimination. No, instead they tell you they don't want to hear it. Stop reminding them. And I've said this, I tell people that when they tell you go back to where you came from, when they tell you to love it or leave it, translate, that translates. That means stop telling me about the evil that I'm doing. I said this before in previous shows, right? That's what that means. That means stop reminding me of the evil that we do to you and your people and others. Stop reminding us. Because clearly they don't want to change. And as you can see on the screen, this saying of love it or leave it, or go back to where you came from, it's an old white racist slogan. That when you call them out on their evil, they say, oh, love it or leave it. As you can see in this old picture here, when the Klan was able to be blatantly out in the open, they had a billboard. This is Klan country. How ironic. This is Klan country. Of course, they were talking about where they live, but Ironic, I put this here because yes, the country. This is clan. This is a clan country, not just that particular area, but it's a clan country as a whole. That's why the clan wears the hoodies. That's why they wear the hood. Where do you think they go when they take the hood off, right? So you don't know who they are, and then when they take the hood off, it's your police chief. It's your congressman. Hell, it might be your governor or your mayor. It might be the police officer who patrols your neighborhood or your community or your city. It might be the judge. It might be the prosecutor. It might be the DA, the attorney general. But you don't know because they wear the hood when they have their meetings. And then when they take the hoods off, they go back into society and infiltrate. They have been, I've showed you before, where FBI has said that there's evidence of white supremacist infiltration into the police department. Oh, it's not only there though. It's not only there. It's infiltration into many facets of society where they could control and practice their hatred through the institutions in which they operate in. The military, etc. So this love it or leave it thing really deals with the fact that they don't want to change their evil white racist ways. So they say love it or leave it or go back to where you came from. Because that's really all that these women have been doing. That's all they've been doing. They never said they hated America. That's a lie. Donald Trump said they if you hate America, they never said they hated America though. See, but see that's how the white racist mind thinks. When you criticize and talk about the evil that they do, to them that's hatred to them, right? To them that's hating. You hate America. No, that's not hating America. That's calling out a problem that needs to be fixed and addressed. If my car has a tire, if my car's tire is flat and I complain about the flat tire, does that mean I hate my car? No, that means my car has a problem and I got to fix it and deal with it, right? I don't leave the car abandoned on the side of the road and walk away from it and give it up and go to another car. No, I say I fixed the problem. That doesn't mean I hate my car because I'm complaining about the flat tire. If I have a nice house and the boiler is not working, or there's an electrical problem, or there's a busted window, a broken window, and I'm complaining about the broken window or the boiler not working or the electrical issue, does that mean I hate my house? Or does that mean I'm talking about the problem, and clearly the problem needs to be addressed? I need to fix the broken window or the boiler or the electric problem. I need to fix it. Doesn't mean I hate my house. It means I'm talking about a problem that is presented itself and the problem needs to be fixed and addressed. And that's what these women that you see on the screen have been doing. That's what they've been doing. I've seen some of their congressional speeches where they've spoken about certain issues. Especially back, for example, I'll give you a few examples that I witnessed, that I agreed with. When both Alexandria Cortez and Ilhan were talking about whether America should involve itself with Venezuela, right? They were criticizing America's attempt to get involved unjustifiably in Venezuela. Not only that, but supporting the wrong side in the Venezuelan conflict, supporting the wrong person, the man who they said did not necessarily win the election, who didn't win the elections, but was declaring himself the leader of the country, who, as we know many times in Latin America, was going to, if he does get the power, would take Venezuela back to how it was before Chavez, where it was the white Spanish elite who were in power, and the indigenous people and the black and brown people of Venezuela were at the bottom of the society. And when Hugo Chavez got into power and his successor, Maduro, got into power, they were trying to change that. And of course, as white supremacy is all around the world, they hate that. They don't want to change that. So they were upset with Chavez. They were upset with Maduro for trying to equalize the society and bring up the black and the brown and the indigenous people of Venezuela, bring them up in the society. Well, the white Spanish elite, they didn't like that. And they don't like that. So, if you look at the government, Maduro's government is inclusive. He has people of color. It's a mixture of the Venezuelan society. But the opposition leader, you look at his administration, if he's to get into power, it's not diverse at all. It's all the white Spanish elite. And they want to take the country back to that type of structural setup where the white Spanish elite are in control. The indigenous, the black, and the brown of Venezuela are at the bottom rung of society, being held down. So that's why they made it hard for Chavez to be successful and Maduro to be successful. That's why they made it hard. America didn't like it either, so they put sanctions and all these things to try to stop Chavez and make it hard for Maduro to be successful in his government, and thereby causing contention in the country. So Alexandria Cortez and Ilhan Omar spoke about that and spoke about how America should not get involved. How America should not be aiding a coup to try to, we should basically mind our business and stay out of it. Let the Venezuelans handle it and fix their problem, instead of trying to destroy that society by getting involved. So I agree with that, right? Because they were criticizing America's foreign policy, which is imperialistic and white supremacist. I agree with that. They were right. They were right to talk about that. But see, the people don't like that. See, they're upset. People are upset because you have these people who have a different outlook. They're not white, so they don't have that white European, Eurocentric, white-centric outlook on how America is going to do. And as I said, y'all better get ready for this. Y'all better get ready for it. America is going to change whether you like it or not. As they already tell you, by the year 2040, 2053, whatever, people of color are going to become the majority in America. And unless these people of color get brainwashed with some type of white supremacist brainwashing, America, you're going to change. You're no longer going to be the disseminator of white Western power. America's outlook in foreign policy is going to change, so you better get ready for it. Y'all time is up. Your time is up. What you see on the screen, that's the future. And inshallah, hopefully some men of color will be more involved as well. Of course, there are men of color involved, but more men of color will also be involved. More Muslims will get involved. So America, yeah, you're going to change whether you like it or not. You're not going to be able to hold on to the white dominant, ideology of America. That's going to change unless they do something. Unless they do something radical and evil, where they can hold power like like maybe in South Africa or something. I don't know. America's going to change. Its foreign policy is going to change. It's not going to be anymore, about white Western domination. It's going to change. America's dealings with Israel is going to change. If more Muslims get involved and more people of color get involved and realize and stand against Israel's racism and the mistreatment of Ethiopian, of Palestinians, yes, America's relationship with Israel is going to change, and rightfully so. I look forward to that day. And see, because that's what they tried to throw, and they tried to throw that in with too. But oh, she's criticizing Israel. So what, man? See, I hate the way they kiss Israel's ass so much. It's like, come on, Israel, that's another country. Hello, Israel is another country. We have no allegiance to Israel. It's another country. But some of these and that's, remember, I did that show last year, how they were upset with Sister Ilhan because she had discovered, as we had already known, that it's about the Benjamins, it's about the money. I showed you on a show I did previously where a lot of these politicians get money from the Israeli lobby. So she wasn't lying, she wasn't wrong. But see, they want to criticize her. Oh, she said it was, and it's the truth. It's the truth. It is about the Benjamin. It is about the money. But see, they want to criticize, they want to act like it's not true. Act like she was trying to use some Jewish thing. No, she wasn't talking about no Jewish. She was talking about the Israeli lobby. That's not all Jews. That's not all Jews. That's exactly what she called it out as. The Israeli lobby that buys off many U.S. politicians so they can do the bidding of a foreign power. Isn't that treason? Isn't that treason? But because, as I told you guys before, remember, what it really comes down to is that it's about white racists supporting other white races. Many of these white politicians look at Israel as a nation of white people surrounded by these brown and black desert people, the Arabs. So they say so that's really the connection. Bigger than the so-called, religious thing. It's more so that they look at the Israelis as their fellow white people surrounded by a nations of people of color. So therefore they feel they must protect. And remember, this is all stuff that I've talked about in my previous shows. Remember, I did that show a while back where I showed you how the origins of the Zionist movement included white racist rhetoric. How they appealed to Europe to support them based on the idea that they were white. Yes, their religion is different, but they're still white, and they were talking about how they should be supported because they could be the outpost of European expansionism in that part of the world. They could be the outpost. They could be one of the further outposts of white European expansionism. So that's why, in other words, and so therefore, that's why the Europeans should support the Zionist efforts to get land. I showed you all of that, remember? You see? And so a lot of these white American politicians are the same way. That's how they look at it. Which is, as I told you, they will even support Israel against they claim to be Christians, but they will support Israel against their fellow, against their fellow Palestinian Christian brothers and sisters. Even, I wonder if they even consider the Christian Palestinians their brothers and sisters. Hell, right? I wonder if they even consider them their brothers and sisters. The way they kiss Israel's ass so much, you wonder, like, hey, are you even concerned that by you supporting Israel, you're hurting your own Christian brothers and sisters? They may not even consider the Palestinian Christians true Christians, for all we know. Probably don't. Hell, just look at how they treated black Christians in America. They didn't consider the black Christians their true brothers and sisters in Christianity, so I doubt if they considered the Palestinian Christians their Christian brothers and sisters anyway. Of course, their actions prove that they don't. Right? Their actions prove that they don't consider them their brothers and sisters, or they'd be trying to do something to make sure that, true equality and peace could take place. But clearly they don't care. They obviously don't consider the Palestinian Christians their brothers and sisters in Christianity. But that's what this really comes down to, is the fact that they can't stand to be told and reminded of the evil that they do. And so instead of facing it, they say, go back or go somewhere else. That's what they told Martin Luther King. Right? That's what they told Martin Luther King, like this sign shows you. When black people started to rise up and protest and march for civil rights and fair treatment, they said the same thing. If you don't like it, if you don't love it, leave it. You don't like this country, get out. Meanwhile, it's like, well, it ain't about whether I don't like it. I'm saying that you're treating us wrong. We're here. We want to be treated fairly. We want equal rights. And instead of these devils acknowledging that, they said, well, if you don't like the way it is, leave it. No, but the way it is wrong, though. The way it is wrong, though. I can see if you wasn't doing nothing wrong, and then you say, hey, you're complaining for nothing, so if you don't like it, leave it. But the way it is doing wrong. Right? It's doing wrong. So therefore, it ain't a matter of love it or leave it. It's a matter of you're doing something wrong. You need to stop it. Not leave it, not love it or leave it. How can I love when you're doing wrong? How can I love it while you're doing me wrong? How could black people love it while you're doing us wrong? How could the indigenous Americans love it when you're doing them wrong? How could the Chinese Americans love it when you're doing them wrong? How could the Japanese Americans love it when you're doing them wrong? Right? So how can you talk about love it or leave it when it ain't right? So it ain't a matter of love it. How can I love the wrong? How can I love when you're doing me wrong? Love it or leave it. No, that's arrogance. That right there is arrogance right there. When I have a legitimate gripe against you, when I have a legitimate grievance against you for the wrong that you're perpetrating against me or other people, and your response is love it or leave it, the hell? No, it's fix it, or we're going to bring the whole thing down. How about that? And that's what's going on here. All Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Cortez and Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley, all they've done was talked about the wrong that America's doing. Like recently, which been the thing? It's been the thing about the situation at the United States southern border and how human rights violations are being taken place, how the children are being put in cages, how that we're being told that the people down there are being abused. Children, they said children have been sexually abused down there at the border in the cages. How they haven't been, they're not being fed, not being allowed to wash, right? And other abuses that are taking place. That's what they've talked about. That's what they've been talking about, at least for the last few weeks. And so the response is, go back to where you came from. Instead of saying, yeah, we need to stop that. That's right, that's wrong. Yeah, we need to at least treat them humanely. Instead, it's been, shut up, and if you don't like it, go back to where you came from. It's love it or leave it. Isn't that a twisted way of thinking? How twisted and demonic a way of thinking is that? Instead of addressing the issue, you say, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. No. How about I fix it? How about we fix that problem? Right? How about we fix that problem? Instead of liking it, leave it. Because if you leave a problem alone, the problem remains, right? If you leave a problem, the problem remains. I'll take you back to the example of the house and the car. If your car has a flat tire, and you get upset with it and you speak about it, but instead of you fixing it, you leave it, doesn't the tire remain flat? Right? The tire remains flat. The problem remains there. If you have a house, as I said, the broken window or the boiler's not working or there's an electrical issue, if you leave the house as it is, the problem remains there. So that means whoever's left in that house, the problem is still there. The broken window is still there. The boiler is still broken. It's still there. So whoever stayed while you left, the problem is still there. If you had people in the car with you when the tire was flat and you decided to leave the car, the people in the car are still stuck with the tire flat. You haven't done anything. That's not noble. But you know what? When we think about the European colonial history, that's what they've done, hasn't it? How do you think they came to America? America, so it's kind of not a surprise that they would say that, because that's their ancestry. That's what they've done. When you look back at how America got colonized, it was because Europeans were upset with how they were being treated by the British king or whoever king, right? So they came over to America thinking that they could escape the problem. Instead of staying over in Europe and fighting against or resisting the British crown, they came over here, took the land from somebody else, left the problem, at least they thought they left the problem over in England. But did they, if you know American history, did they leave the problem over there? No, they did not. They thought they did by leaving, but what happened? The problem followed them over to the colonies of America, did it? Right? And so King George was still their problem. Right? They weren't able to leave King George's issues behind. King George followed them right on over to the American colonies, continued to do whatever he was doing to them, to the point where they finally had to fight the American Revolution. But that's what happened when you don't fix the problem. The problem will follow you. It doesn't get solved. So I think maybe, so I wonder, is that why they always tell people to love it or leave it? Because that's in their DNA perhaps? Because they come from people who did that. They came from a people who, instead of staying to face their problems, they left the problem. They thought they left their country and came over here, but the problem was still there, and that problem followed them. And then they wound up having to fight. Right? They wound up having to have a revolution in order to get that problem off of them. Whereas if they might have stayed in England and fought King George, they might have been able to handle and solve the problem over there without having to come over to the Americas and have the problem follow them. But that's what happened. When you don't fix the problem can still follow you and cause you more trouble. So I wonder if that's why that's their first go-to argument, which is, well, love it or leave it. Right? But as I said, really it comes down to that they just don't like being told and reminded of the evil that they do. That's why you hear excuses like, oh, you're whining, you're complaining, you're acting like a victim. These are all the tropes that they use to deflect and avoid facing the fact. Whether I'm a victim or not, whether I'm whining or complaining or not, is what I'm saying a problem or not? And are you going to address it or not? But that's the point. They don't want to address it. They want to be comfortable in their evil, right? They want to be comfortable in their evil, so they don't want you to remind them. They don't want you to remind them that they're doing evil, that they're doing wrong. So their answer is go back, leave, get out if you don't. No. But as I tell people, I don't accept go back or leave from anybody, especially not a white person. I do not accept any white person telling me to go back anywhere. Because when they tell me that, you know what I tell them? I say, shut up, because this is not your original land anyway. Your ancestors do not originally come from this land, so you do not have the right to tell me to go back anywhere. If anything, you need to go back somewhere. If anybody needs to leave, it's you. You are the descendants of the invader and the colonizer. So if anybody needs to going back somewhere, it's you. You need to take your ass back to where you come from. If anybody has to do any going back to anywhere, it's you who needs to go back. Because the Mexicans were here before you, right? The Mexicans were here before you. The indigenous Americans, they were here before you. So if anybody has to tell anybody to go back, it's you who needs to go back to Europe. You need to go back. Not us. Because anyway, it's them who has the problem. They're the ones who can't get along, right? They're the ones who came to America, took it over, and you couldn't get along with the Native American. It was them who captured black people from Africa, brought them to America, made them slaves, and then you couldn't get along with us here. Right? So really, they are the ones who have the problem, who can't seem to get along. So if you're the one who can't seem to get along, you need to leave. Go back to a country where you can, go to Switzerland or something, where you can be in a country where it's 99.9% white people, and you don't have to worry about dealing with people of color, because they're the ones who can't seem to get along, right? They're the ones who can't seem to get along with anybody. And so really the only reason why they're upset with Sister Ilhan and the others is because these sisters, these women, are calling them out on their evil, are challenging their white supremacist type foreign policies, locally, nationally, and internationally, and they don't like it. They don't want that, right? They don't want that. But as I said, it's going to change, right? It's going to change. Wa alaikum salam to the brother just entered the room. Thermal Stalk, welcome. Omar El Said, Charles Irby, welcome. Council of Small Ears, welcome. Welcome all of you, right? Wa alaikum salam to you all. But that's what it really comes down to, man. Right? That's the only real reason they're upset with Sister Ilhan, and of course, just because she's Muslim, right? But of course, that's white bigotry, that's white racism. It really doesn't make sense. They just don't like you just because your skin color is different. They just don't like you because your religion is different. Right? No real reason to. And of course, they will make up false reasons. Of course, they'll make up false reasons behind to justify their bigotry. They'll make lies up about it, like they lying about Sister Ilhan. Did you know there's a new thing they're claiming, is that they claim that she married her brother to get citizenship. How you know what I mean? Like, wow, they claim that supposedly she married her brother to get citizenship to the United States. I'm like, wow, but that's of course a lie. Right, that's of course a lie. These Shayateen, boy, they something else, man. But again, we've seen that, right? In many of the shows that I've done where I refute their claims about Islam, we've demonstrated and exposed to you how they lie, how they make up blatant lies against Islam to justify. It's like a circular argument. They make up a lie against Islam to justify their hatred against Islam, but the hatred against Islam is based upon a lie that you made up yourself, and it goes in a circle. And so it's the same thing with Sister Ilhan. They lie about her to claim why they don't like her, but they don't like her because they made up a lie about her. You know, it's crazy. So here we see that Trump went on ahead and promoted some lie that was made up online about her, that supposedly she married her brother, as you see right here. President Dog Whistle repeats insidious and unfounded claim that Representative Ilhan Omar married her brother. And of course, it's a lie. It's not true. This is from the newspaper, The Root. The newspaper, The Root, a black-owned news publication. Right? Black-owned news publication. We want to give some props to The Root. But as I said, yeah, that they're repeating. And it's not true. She did not marry her brother to gain citizenship. She went through the process and became a naturalized state citizen. But that's how white supremacy works. That's why it's of the devil. That's why I call them devils. Because they're doing devilish stuff like that. Lying. Lying about Islam. Lying about Muslims. Lying about this Muslim sister. Another lie that they put forward was that the sister supposedly was trying to get lighter or lenient punishment for ISIS terrorists, which is another lie, right? Which is another lie. We checked it out on Snopes. You know, Snopes is a website that is known for investigating the truth or falsehood of certain claims made, you know, on the internet, social media, etc. And they checked it out, and of course, it is not true. She was not trying to call for lighter sentences for ISIS recruits. What they did, and this is another trick that they like to do, is they like to take something that's a half truth and then put it forward as if it is the whole truth, or they'll distort it and mix it to make it, you know, to fit their narrative. And that's what they did here by saying that Representative Sister Ilhan Omar called for lighter sentences for would-be ISIS recruits, and that's not true. What this was based upon was that she had wrote a letter on behalf of one individual who had been accused of being an ISIS recruit. So basically, she was writing a letter on behalf of this one person. She did not promote that there should be sentences, lighter sentences for all ISIS terrorists or all convicted ISIS terrorists or anything of the sort. She basically wrote a letter on behalf of this man who had been accused and charged with being an alleged recruit. And remember, brothers and sisters, I also did a show about this, well, where I showed you before that a lot of these claims, especially the ones that take place here in the United States, of people being accused of being a recruit or trying to join ISIS or trying to carry out a terrorist attack, that many of these are false flag operations. Remember, I showed you that, where many times the FBI makes up a terrorist plot themselves, and unfortunately, they find a naive person to take the bait. And then the whole thing is really fake. The FBI concocted it themselves. They find what they call a patsy, which means a simple-minded person, a naive person that falls for the bait, who they can coerce into taking the plot that they made up themselves, though, that if the person was on their own, they would have never thought of the plot. They had no connections whatsoever to any terrorist groups. They had no connections to get weapons or bombs or anything of that sort on their own. But the FBI sends undercover agents, agent saboteurs, to coerce a simple-minded person into thinking that they want to carry out an act. And these undercover agents will say, hey, we can get you the weapons. We can get you the whatever it is that you want to do to carry out the act. But the plot was created by the agents. So it was never a real terrorist attack in the first place. And then when the day of whatever the act is supposed to take place, the FBI swoops in and they say, oh, we did it. We solved the case. Meanwhile, the case was concocted and it was controlled by them the whole time. And there was never really a threat in the first place. So I believe this brother may have been part of that. Again, that's his fault that he fell for that and went for that in the first place. But nonetheless, it was still a concocted false flag. And so all she did was write a letter to the judge on behalf of this brother because of his past character. Along with, they said 13 other people also wrote a letter. And that's not unusual, right? That people can write and petition a judge based upon what you know of the person. Say, well, hey, I know so-and-so. Please be merciful to him. He's a good guy. He used to do, he did charity, whatever. That's not unusual for people to do that. It's matter of fact, it's permissible in United States justice law that people can, speak on your behalf to try to get the judge to be merciful to you. That's not unusual. But you know what's hypocritical about these white racist bigots? Is that they are judges who, without the petition of a person, has given clearly guilty white criminals leniency. There are a number of cases where white men have been convicted of rape, but the judge gave him a light sentence. Right? White men convicted of dealing drugs and such. Judges given all kind of excuses to give them a light sentence, saying that, his life could be ruined if he goes to prison, so I'm going to give him a light. Like, what? And we know damn well if it was a black drug dealer, no such would be given. If it was a black rapist, no such mercy would be given. So that's the hypocrisy of these people, that they would even try to make this an argument about her when there are hundreds of cases of white judges giving white convicted criminals leniency and mercy in their judgment and rulings. But the sister can't write on behalf of somebody who has been accused. Right? That's the hypocrisy. And again, this was only one individual. She did not make a policy. She did not try to pass a policy that any person who's accused of joining ISIS would. No, it was only for this one person. She wrote a letter on his behalf, and but that's how they do. So they twist it and say, oh, she was trying to pass or get some policy passed for lighter sentences for any person who is accused of joining ISIS. That's a lie. That's a lie. She did not try to pass any policies like that. She only wrote a letter to a judge on behalf of this one person who was accused. Nowhere did she try to get any policies passed to make it a law that people accused of joining ISIS would receive lighter sentences. No, that's a lie. But that's how they do. That's how they do. Because they can't get you with the truth, they lie. Same thing with Islam, as you've seen if you follow my channel. That many times they cannot attack Islam straightforward. So they have to distort. They have to twist. They have to misconstrue. They have to misrepresent the Quran, misrepresent a verse, misrepresent the seerah of the Prophet, misrepresent a hadith, misquote it, quote part of it, ignore the verse before or after that refutes their claim, because they can't come with an honest and true attack on Islam. So they have to lie, they have to distort and twist. And so it's the same thing here when it comes to those who they hate. If they can't find nothing on you, then of course they will make something up to satisfy their bigotry and their racism. They'll misconstrue, they'll misrepresent, they'll concoct a lie, they'll spread a lie about you. Because they just can't, because they can't catch you honestly. So they'll have to, they'll make something up. And strangely enough, they'll believe the lie that they made up and then use that to justify the reason why they hate you or dislike you. And that's what they have done with the sister Ilhan Omar. Attacking her here, attacking her with their, because she made some statements about Israel. And so I'm like, so what? Israel, this is America. Israel is Israel and America is America. Why do so many politicians seem to want to bow down to Israel when it's a foreign country? But as the sister had exposed, it's because of the money. And it's because of the Israeli lobby. Remember, I showed you that documentary where the Israelis are very dangerous people, man. And again, I'm talking about Israeli. Maybe I'm making myself clear. I'm talking about Israeli, not Jews. I'm talking about Israelis, not Jews. Some Israelis may be Jews, but I'm not talking about Jews as a whole, as a people. I'm talking about the Israelis in particular. Remember that show I did some time ago where I showed you that documentary from the BBC that exposes how the Israeli lobby influences and tries to destroy, and if you try to oppose them, they will try to destroy your career, your political career. They'll try to destroy you. Remember I showed you that documentary, right? Remember that? How they try to influence politicians here in the United States and over in the UK. And that if you are a politician who doesn't want to take the bait, who doesn't want to take the money, they actually point blank were exposed. Some of their agents were exposed of trying to destroy politicians who oppose what they do. They'll try to destroy your career. I showed you how they have software, right? How they have software and all these different things that searches the internet for anybody who says anything against Israel. And that if you start to gain momentum, they will try to destroy you, right? They'll try to destroy you. They'll try to make sure that you don't get too far, right? They'll try to drown you out. They'll try to do whatever they can. That's how paranoid they are, that they actually have a damn software where it searches the internet for anything of anybody that speaks against Israel. And then they determine how much of a problem you are. So, oh, this person's getting a little bit of traction. This person's getting a little, he or she is getting some traction. We got to find a way to destroy them, destroy their career. Make sure they don't get too far. I wonder, is that why Mr. Islam Answers Back can't get the support that I've been asking for like so long now? Is that why? Is the software preventing my videos from gaining the attention that it needs because I'm so outspoken? I wonder. Because damn sure I've been wondering. I've been petitioning the brothers and sisters to help support, and I just can't seem to get the traction that I need. Speaking on that, if you would like to help support the voice that your brother Mr. Islam Answers Back brings, you can do so by going to the links. They're in the description of this video, but you can, as you see them on the screen, support your brother through the PayPal. You can donate through Cash App. Support me on Patreon. I'm still trying to get 10 people. I lost another person. I was up to 8, and again I dropped down to 7. It's so hard, man. It's really so hard. It's hard. It's frustrating. It really is, because as I've told you guys so many times before, you see the kind of support that David Wood gets with his message against Islam, the apostate prophet, etc., and how they seem to just easily get all this type of support against to promote their anti-Islamic message. And here I am, your brother, Mr. Islam, who's been out here doing this work for quite some time, and I'm struggling to get 10 people, man. I'm struggling to get just 10 people. So I wonder, maybe that Israeli software, maybe it's out there preventing me from getting the support that I need to expand my work. I don't know. But it is frustrating sometimes. It is frustrating sometimes because it's like, yeah, I've been doing this since the early 2000s, man. Since the early 2000s, I've been doing this. And of course, the Patreon and all that stuff is new. PayPal, all that's recent, right? These are recent things. But yet, the people with the anti-Islamic message can easily get the support that they need. And here, a brother who's been doing this for years, man. I've been doing this over 10 years now. Struggling to get 10 people, man. I should have 100 people by now. 50 people at the least. I'm struggling to get 10 people. I can't get 10 Muslim brothers and sisters to support me. Like I've been asking for I've been asking this for like a few months now. I don't know, whatever, man. Mashallah. It is what it is. It is what it is. Don't forget that I started the new channel. I haven't had the time yet to make a video. I haven't had the time to make a video yet. But remember the new channel that we started, the Islam Inspired channel, Guidance for Everyday Living. You can get to that video by the video. It's on this channel here. Just look at the video that says the Inspirational Islam channel, Intro to the Inspirational Islam channel. The link to the new channel is there. So as I said, if you missed last week's show, remember I told you that I'm going to keep the two channels separate. This channel will deal with, the stuff that I'm talking about now, refutations, rebuttals, debunking, and all that stuff like that of attacks against Islam or Muslim people, like in this case. Or we'll talk about, what's going on with any political issues involving Muslims or Islam or whatever. And the Islam Inspired channel will deal with, as it says, the inspirational message of Islam, right? So just remember that if you to join that channel, inshallah, when I get the chance to do a video for that channel, I'll do that. Again, your support would help me to be able to do more often that channel videos on this channel and that channel, because obviously it takes time to do that. I need the time to do that. So your support would help me. Your support would help me with that. Wa alaikum salam. False sex. Welcome. Right? But yeah, your support would help me to be able to do more shows on a regular basis. Matter of fact, even on a daily basis. As I said, I see David Wood pretty much does a show he does a video every day. Every day. But of course he can do that because he is being supported by the people who support what he's promoting. So he can do a video every day. He can bring them content every day. If you would like your brother, Mr. Islam Masters Back, to be able to bring you content more often as well, then I need your support. Right? I need your support. I need that type of support. Now it doesn't have to be that up to his level that he's getting the same amount or number, but I need more. I need more support. The more support I get, the more time that frees up for me to be able to bring you more content on a regular basis. That's if you like what I'm doing. Maybe I don't know, And that's if you do like what I'm doing, then I need your support, inshallah. All right. But back to the subject that we're talking about is that, like I said, it's all these women that you see here. They all have been under attack by President Trump in particular, and by a certain segment of the American population, those of the dominant society. They all have been attacking these women, making whatever excuses they can because they are women of color. But as I said, the real issue is that they are attacking them because they are challenging the old white supremacist, white Western ideology of the United States. A country that used to be run only by white men. Remember, America was a country that was only controlled and governed by white men for a very long time. For 200 years, America has been governed by white men only. Therefore, its policies, its laws, etc., have been designed to benefit white men and white people in particular. Those things started to change when people started to challenge. When people of color, black people, challenged them. When other people of color began to challenge those ideas. And so that's really what I say is the real reason why they dislike the women that you see on the screen. Because they're not white. And so therefore, the outlook that they have is not coming from a white male, white supremacist ideology. And as I said, as time goes on, that's you're going to change. America is going to change. That which you hated is going to become the forefront. Those whom you hated, those who you tried to hold down, the last shall be first, as your Bible tells you. And as I said, as people of color do not think like a lot of white people think, America is going to change. Its ideology is going to change. What I mean by not as far as freedom and justice for all. I mean its practice. Its practice of a type of white Western supremacy is going to change. If more Muslims get involved in Congress, more people of color get involved, America's foreign policy will change from being a white Western supremacist type of foreign policy. As I said, I repeat again, America's relationship with Israel will change as more black people get involved, more Latinos get involved, more people of Middle Eastern Arab descent get involved, more Muslims get involved. America's foreign policy will change. In Israel, you will not be the favorite anymore. You won't be the favorite anymore. You won't be coddled anymore. You won't be allowed to unconditionally mistreat the Palestinians anymore. You wait and see. You wait and see. Unless they come up with some slick way, which, like I said, they're working. They're working to do it. They're willing to buy out. I showed you the article. Remember, I showed you that story too a while back, where they were trying to get black Americans to get on their side, right? So they are working on it. They are working to make sure that if America does become, or when it does become predominantly people of color, that they're still trying to make sure they can still hold their position by trying to buy out people of color. So they'll pay for the Latino politician. They'll try to get black politicians to take that money. If they can get you to sell out, they will. If they can get you to sell out, they will. But I pray that as more people of color get involved in the government, that they will maintain their people of color outlook and won't take the money. They won't sell out to Israel. They won't continue to uphold these foolish unconditional policies of unconditional support for Israel. And that America's foreign policy will change from the white supremacist, white Western ideological practice of trying to keep countries of people of color down, and the sanctions and telling them they can't have these kind of weapons and all this clearly white supremacist policies. But that's what they fear, though, right? That's what they fear. That's what they don't want. That's what they fear, brothers and sisters. You better believe it. So I'll say this as we begin to wind down, is to say that this is why they say, go back to where you came from. It's just a white racist trope used to deflect and avoid dealing with the evil of white racism. So I want to bring something to you, who I believe gave a good answer to that, to remind white people that when they tell us to go somewhere, when they tell us to go back, what they need to keep in mind. Listen to this answer about when they tell us to go back. Here's what they need to think about when they tell other people to go back. Check it out.
Those arrogant persons, you know, when you tell us go back, please remember where you came from. When you want to relegate somebody to a specific place, just remember what your origin is in this world. Please, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I want you to understand that you, wherever you are on the earth, you are not a native anywhere. You came there and took it from the native people who are there. So please don't talk about going back, because if others talk to you about that, where would you go?
Exactly, yes. Where would you go? Right. Where would you go? Beautiful, beautiful response. Beautiful response. Where would you go, right? If we tell you to go back, where would you go? Because like he said, you're not a native anywhere. You're not a native to America. You're not a native to Australia. Most of these places that they occupy, they are not natives to any of these lands. So how the hell are you telling anybody to go back somewhere? And just remember what I told you, brothers and sisters, that when they tell you go back or leave, love it or leave it, remember what that means. That means stop reminding me of the evil that me and my people are doing to you and your people, or to those people of color or whatever. That's what that means. Remember, that's what that means. Whenever they tell you, whenever you're bringing up a legitimate point about the evil that they're perpetrating against immigrants or against black people or against Muslims or whatever, and their response is, well, go back. If you don't like it, go back to where you came from. Or if you don't like it, leave it. Remember, that means stop reminding me of the evil that me and my people are doing. That's what, for them, that's what that means. That means stop reminding white people of the evil racism and bigotry that they're practicing. That's what, if you don't like it, leave it, or go back to where you came from me. That means stop reminding white people of the evil that they do, but they don't want to face it. That's what that means. Remember that. All right, remember that. All right, so before I wind up, let's take a look at some of the comments that have been made. Let's take a look before we sign out. All right, so let's see here. Omar El Said earlier said, Assalam, brother, are you going to eventually talk about how Ben Shapiro wouldn't care if America killed 150 innocent Iranians for shooting an unmanned drone? Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll look that up and see what he said. And, see if we'll address it, if it's worth addressing. So I'll definitely look that up. The brother said, why don't I run for president? I could change a lot of things. Inshallah, that actually did cross my mind. But you know what, bro? What's interesting about that running for president thing that I noticed is that it seems like that thing it's really like a game. Like somebody like myself who comes from limited resources, I like you really can't, it's like almost impossible to do. Most of these people who run for president, if you check them out a lot of times, like you find out that they come from wealth. They come from wealth, or they're connected to people in power already. You know what I mean? Like if you look up a lot of these people, it's very rare to find somebody who runs for president that comes from like limited resources. That actually comes from limited resources and limited means. Like even Obama, for example. You find out that a lot of these people are related to people already. Like, for example, President Obama, or Obama before he got elected, he's related to Dick Cheney. A lot of people don't know that he's related to. He's a few cousins removed, but he's still related. And you find out that a lot of these people are related. A lot of these people are related. Like, for example, if you remember when George Bush was president, the younger George Bush, we found out that John Kerry, remember John Kerry was running against him. That was his opposition. But guess what? George Bush and John Kerry are related. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. I don't think so. So you found out that a lot of these people are actually related, almost like a type of royal family without being a royal family, right? It's like a type of royal family, but without being, kings and queens and such. But they're related. So basically the people in power are related to each other. So you wonder, is that a coincidence? That somehow all these people are related and they're all in positions of power. Dick Cheney, vice president to George Bush, he's related to Obama through Obama's mother. Obama's mother is white. So he's related to, so you're like, wait a minute, is that a coincidence? I don't think so. I don't think that's a coincidence. You say, hey, John Kerry and George Bush are running against each other. They're opponents. But wait a minute, they're cousins. Hold up. So that means no matter who won, your family still gets in the power. See that? Peep the game, right? So that means no matter who won, whether John Kerry won or whether George Bush won, his family would still have been in power. So a lot of these people are related, and a lot of them are connected to money already. So somebody like me, who, as far as I know, I'm not related to anybody with political power or clout. Clearly, I'm not a wealthy person. I don't come from a wealthy family. So for a person like me to run for president, really naturally run, it may be damn near impossible because, unless I could try to really build up some grassroots support, which might be, which would be difficult. I mean, not impossible, but very difficult, right? So I guess I could try to drum up some support and run for president. Maybe be able to raise a few tens of thousands of dollars, right? But I don't have any connections. I don't have any connections to anybody in power or family that comes from power or wealth or anything like that. But yeah, believe me, the idea crossed my mind. I said, man, what if I could run for president? At least, even if it was just to get certain issues recognized. You know what I mean? Just for the sake of doing it, just so that certain issues could be recognized, even if I didn't win or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's something to think about. Truly. Let's say what did Charles Irby say? What is wrong with what Trump said? Why don't Somalis or immigrants return to build their countries? Now, Brother Charles, in that context, I could see that. I do agree with that, actually. Right? I actually do agree with that. I've actually spoken about this before, too, about immigrants in general, particularly Muslim immigrants. I've actually said I agree with you to that extent, which is that, right, a lot of Muslims have sought, remember when I talked about the refugee problem. I had said this before when the Syrian refugee problem was a major issue in the news. I did say that in the sense that why is it not that Muslim countries are not providing refuge for Muslim refugees? I had said this before, that Muslims should not have to run to Europe or America or Australia for safe haven. The Muslim countries are supposed to be able to provide refuge for Muslims in need. So I agree with you in that respect. And that the Muslim countries should be built up. That in the past, in the ancient times, the Muslim world was the place where people went to for education. Right? People from Europe used to go to the Muslims to study information and knowledge and seek knowledge and information. And then it somewhere down the line changed. Right? It changed where now Europe is where you go. But back in the ancient world, it was the Muslim lands that Europeans even would go to study. That if you wanted to gain knowledge, you went to study in the lands of Islam, of the Muslims. The Muslims were in the forefront of science and technology and knowledge, and Arabic was the language that people had to speak in order to gain knowledge. Now that's changed, and English is the language. So in that regard, I agree that Muslim nations should be able to offer. It should be the Muslim nations that everyone is looking to as the example of justice and what is right. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Many times, of course, because of what? Because of what the white Westerners have done through destroying these nations, and many times implementing a puppet regime who they can control or who they know will suppress their people. So that's why that has not happened, because many times the Westerners have supported, helped put in power, helped a coup against the legitimate leader, and then they put in some puppet leader who's willing to destroy his own people in order to carry out the bidding of the Western power, whether it was the British, the French, the Americans, etc. Right? We've seen that with America's support of Hosni Mubarak. We've seen that with America's support of Sisi after the brother Morsi was removed from office in Egypt. America supported Sisi, who we know is repressive against his own people. They supported Mubarak before that. America supported Saddam Hussein. America stands by the king of Saudi, the current ruler of Saudi Arabia, right? Don't they? Yet, we're told that these places are undemocratic. We're told that they're oppressive. We're told that they're ruled by the scary Sharia law. Yet, why does America support them then? America's supposed to be against the kingdom, right? America was built on the idea of opposing monarchies. That was how America got started. They fought against the monarchy of Britain, of England, right? So you would think that that would be America's, theme, to always oppose and never align itself with kings and tyrants and stuff like that. Yet, that's exactly what they do. They align themselves with people who are opposed, who contradict America's alleged ideology of democracy and justice and elected leaders and all of that, who oppress their own people, who repress their own people for the benefit of Western powers, and that's a shame. And that's why these Muslim nations that are not really ruled by Islamic rulership are the laughing stock of the world. They're not examples to the world. The world doesn't look to these Muslim nations for a damn thing, and that's a shame. But we know why. It's not because of Islam. It's because they don't practice. And I'm not making takfir. I'm just saying that the practice of Islam is lacking. Let's put it that way. So I'm not making takfir on the people in those countries or whatever. But I am criticizing the leadership of those countries. Many of these leaders who are hypocrites. Right? Who are hypocrites who, many of them some of them don't even really show any examples of Islam in their life. Like Mubarak. Did Mubarak really show any examples of living a Muslim life? Does Sisi show any example of living a Muslim life? Did Saddam Hussein show examples of really living an Islamic lifestyle? Did he really? Did many of these leaders do that? Show any examples of living themselves, their lives, and governing according to Islam? No, right? Many of them ruled on an Arab nationalist platform. Saddam was the Ba'ath Party. That has nothing to do with Islam, right? So many of these leaders for the last few decades have ruled more so on a nationalistic ideology rather than an Islamic one. And therefore, they show no example to the world. The Muslims used to be the example to the world of what a nation, an empire of knowledge, and trying to give justice and equality and fair treatment to its citizens, the Muslim and the non-Muslim. But now they're nothing. So much so that they can't even, that the Muslims who are looking for refuge would rather go to Europe, would rather go to a Kafir country to seek refuge than to go to one of the Arab countries. Isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame? That they would rather run to a nation that is predominantly un-Islamic to seek refuge than to go seek refuge in a Muslim country, because it appears that the Muslim country can't offer them refuge, and that's a shame. So, Charles, I agree with you in that regard, that they should be trying to fix up their countries. But I say that to all of the Muslim immigrants, not just the Somalis, to all of them, Syrians, etc. But it's unfortunate that they can't, because many of these Muslim countries can't offer them anything, unfortunately. But it's a sad that in this day and time, they have to run to the Kaffir countries for support, for help, for refuge, for a better life. The Muslim countries are supposed to be able to provide them if they were practicing Islam in its fullness. We're supposed to be able to offer them that refuge. We're supposed to be able to offer them a better lifestyle. Unfortunately, they have to run to a Kaffir country for a better lifestyle. And that's sad. That's really sad. So yes, in that regard, I agree with you that they should be trying to build their own countries. I've talked about this before too, where, you know, when I was living in Virginia, for example, there were many Muslims who worked at NASA. Right? There were many Muslims from Egypt and all these other countries that worked at NASA, helping develop the United States science program, air and space program. And I was like, damn, couldn't your country use that? Couldn't your country use your knowledge of space and space science technology so you can help your own country advance? Instead, you're giving your knowledge and the benefit of your intelligence to help a Kaffir country advance when your own country could need that. Right? I don't know. I can't speak for them, but yeah, that's unfortunate. That their own countries could use your expertise. They could use your intelligence, your knowledge. But instead, you're over here, for whatever reason, giving that knowledge to further advance these non-Muslim countries. So, hey, what can you say? But yeah, in that context, I do agree with you. I do agree with you in that context. But on the other side of it, as far as what is wrong, what Trump said, what's wrong with it on the other side of it is that regardless, these are still American citizens, right? Ilhan is an American citizen. So what's wrong with it is that she's an American citizen now, and she has the right to criticize if our government is doing wrong. This is another thing that America was built upon, which is freedom of speech. Which is that, and that's part of the patriotic ideology, which is that if your country is wrong, you should speak out against your country. You should criticize it. You don't unconditionally go along with your country when it's doing wrong. Part of being a patriot is that when your country is not living up to its standards, you do speak out against it and you criticize your country for that, or the leader or whoever. Whereas in some countries, you're not permitted to speak out against it, or they'll kill you. You're not permitted to speak against the leader. They'll kill you. That's supposed to be the distinction that America has, is that you are permitted. It's your right. It's your duty, in fact, to speak out against a corrupt leader or ruler or governor, etc., president or whoever. Or if your country's policies are wrong. That's part of your being a true patriot, is that when you see your country is not living up to its ideology, not living up to its alleged standards, that you will criticize it because you see that it's doing wrong. So on that part of it, that's what Trump said is wrong, is that he's criticizing an American citizen for justifiably criticizing a wrong that our country is doing. So there's two sides to that, Charles. He said Obama spoke about the brain drain in Africa. They refuse to return home to rebuild. I guess they think the non-educated populace. Well, yes. Again, I agree with that. That a lot of times, and maybe this is why these countries can't really get where they need to be, because of, yes, the brain drain. Africa could use its intelligent people to help build up its own programs, its own engineering programs, its own infrastructure, its own science programs. The Muslim countries could use their people in the same way. But many of them are over here helping advance these people who don't like Islam, who don't like the Muslims. And then they criticize, then they say, hey, look at your country, look how backwards it is. Look how underdeveloped it is. Well, look, no wonder. No wonder the people who have the intelligence and the education and the knowledge to make it better, they're all over here. Not, a lot of them are over here instead of over where they need to be in their own country to help their own country advance. All right, what else? Let's see. Let's see. I'm just trying to read a few of the comments. Let's see. The government. You said the government are ones that actually killed Martin Luther King. Yeah, yeah. There is evidence that the government was involved. They definitely were trying to destroy him, right? The government was definitely trying to destroy Martin Luther King. There's ample evidence of that they were trying to destroy him. So, yeah, same thing with Malcolm X and others, yes. Black Panthers, they tried to destroy them, yes. Even though they were justifiably fighting for their rights of black people. And again, you would think that a country that was based upon a revolution against a tyrannical king would understand, but you know that's how it goes, right? That's how it goes. Let's see what else is here. YouTube has much algorithm bias. They have talked about the fact that they choose. Yeah, that's true too. I heard about that. That certain content can get, they can do things to keep it, keep it low and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the truth to that. Ramon, a comely guy. Have you seen David Wood's new show? No, I have not. I have not seen what David Wood has been doing lately. Let's see. False Sex says we need to expose the evils of AIPAC and their tool. They may try to do a power transfer to the Marxist East. Zionists use the left for Marxism and the right for Judaic Christian. Yep, you're right. They play both sides. They play both sides like that. Yeah. Zionists may try to use the church, which was corrupted by crypto Judeo-Paul, to buy them out. Well, for a lot of it, they have a lot of the church. They have like the white evangelical church, for example, which is why those are most of the people who support Israel, based on that religious bullshit BS, are these white evangelical Christians, right? I mean, yeah, you have a few black ones involved in it, but most of the support from the churches is from these white evangelical churches, claiming this they still on that bull crap about the Jews being the chosen, you know what I mean, Israel being the chosen, all that stuff like that, when the Bible doesn't support that idea. But hey. All right. So who would be interested in a follow up on the topic? Yeah, follow on which topic? Brother, would you be interested in a follow up on a topic? Yeah, well, it depends on what the topic is. What topic do we need to follow up on? Wow, didn't know Obama. Yeah, look that up. Look up Obama is related to Dick Cheney. Yep. Bush and Kerry were both. Yep, they were both in Skull and Bones, and they're cousins. Bush and John Kerry are related also. A lot of these people are related, man. I'm telling you. A lot of these people are related, and I do not think that's a coincidence that they're all related, or a lot of them are related, and yet they're all in politics and in control of the government in some way or another. I do not think that's a coincidence. I think that's purposeful. That's purposeful. It was planned that way. They're basically like a royal family, except without being called kings and princes and all that. But yet they're able to rule. They're the elite, and therefore they find a way to get their family in power. Some way or another, their family members are in power. It's not made a big deal about, but when you search it, you'll find out that a lot of them are related. Yeah, false sex says Muslim immigrants should aid their homes. Syrians were sent to many Muslim countries, but I think due to some war strategy, they weren't able to. And yes, Bill, Dean, and Junior, disunited Muslims. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Africa is very rich. Yes, Africa is definitely very rich. It's the richest continent on this planet. That's where all the diamonds, where a majority of the diamonds are at. Oil, gold, all these, uranium, all these things, all these natural resources. Africa is rich. It's the richest continent. Yet it's the poorest people, or among the poorest people. Why is that? Because their natural resources are controlled by the colonizers and invaders. Right? That's why. It's the richest continent, but unfortunately, those resources were taken over and controlled by the invaders and the colonizers, many of whom are, of course, white Europeans. And therefore, because of that, Africa is not able to benefit off of the resources under their soil. They can't get rich. They should be rich. The people of Africa should be the richest in the world. But because their resources have been co-opted and taken over and controlled by invaders and colonizers, they don't get to benefit from those resources. All right. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and sign out. Don't forget, please, support your brother. Utilize the links in the description of the video. I could greatly use it. I greatly appreciate it. May Allah reward you. And I'll keep you guys notified of the next show, inshallah. If anything doesn't come up, I'm looking at a few things. I want to do something, as I said, to refute and expose the Christian Prince. I see that guy, what was that guy? Bill Warner. The video I did when I refuted him, he has another video. I might do a refutation of that. I'll check out that thing that was mentioned about Ben Shapiro. We'll see what he's saying. We'll see what's going on. We'll see what's on. I need to do the follow-up to the part 2 to that critique of Candace Owens and Imam Frahidi. I also need to do the part 2 to that one. So, inshallah.